They said it couldn't be done. They said it shouldn't be done. They said it probably wouldn't and shouldn't ever been done, but we're back, baby. The Ultimate List 2020 is back. And during this time of solitude and quarantine, a lot of people have been cleaning out their houses, and that's what I did to get the panel for this show. We got the original host from Brooklyn, New York, Ryan Woodchuck Coots.
Hey!
And from downtown California, PA, producer emeritus of CTV, Mr. J.R. Wheeler, and his four-legged friend Sally, who we'll see in the background.
Yeah, but she won't be seen in the background right now because I think she's afraid of Gary.
I have that effect on women, both canine and human. So I like to know that
she's a girl dog, so that makes sense.
My powers still are going there. But for the people that are new, that have never seen the Ultimate List before, shame on you. I don't know what you're doing. But the Ultimate List, we have a few simple rules. What we're going to try and do, we have the brain trust here. We're going to pick a topic, and we're going to each have a list of 10. And then from that 10, we're going to narrow it down from those 30 potential names to 10. And then the last segment of the show, we're going to put in order the final 10 to bring you the Ultimate List. And today's topic is the top 10 sitcoms of all time. You guys ready to go?
Of course.
Ready to go.
And we will go for our first list. The original host, the man with the plan, Ryan Woodchuck Kuntz. What do you got?
I don't remember how much detail we used to get into with each with our own list. So just stop me from talking if I need to be cut off. But I was looking up some fun facts on this stuff too. But starting at number 10 with sitcoms of all time. And that was a whole other thing, was the sitcom, like what exactly is a sitcom? I think is a good place to start.
Yeah, let's think. Woodchuck, what do you say to sitcom? Because JR and I talked about that off screen.
Well, me and the wife discussed it, and I thought it was more of something on a set, and I thought it had to be on a set for some reason, like a studio show. But when I Googled it, it said it just has to be a reoccurring core group in a comedic situation. So
right.
The one thing I didn't include in that was animation. So I know Simpsons might show up on here, but I didn't include animation in my list.
I'm exactly with you because on my list as well, Woodchuck, no animation. Now, if we were talking about the top 10 shows of all time, maybe it'd be in there. But with sitcoms, I just considered ensemble actors. So
right, yeah.
And I also concur.
In a comedic situation.
Situation comedy. Top 10 situation comedies of all time. And yeah, feel free to elaborate on lists. The first segment's to educate. That's what this is all about. All right. Educate the people. So bring us your knowledge, Chucky.
All right. At number 10, a show I don't go after to watch on its own, but if it pops up, I always stick around and have a few chuckles, was Friends. Out in 1994. 236 episodes, and it was nominated for 62 Emmys. So I thought that was a good number 10. Number 9, I went back into the 80s. At 1983, I had Mama's Family. Only 2 seasons, and then it was canceled, but then it came back in syndication for 4 more seasons, and it became the highest-rated sitcom in syndication at the time. And even led to, in 2008, Thelma Harper actually ran for President of the United States of America. Number 8, back up to the 90s, 1993, I had Frasier. It had 11 seasons with the same main cast, which I thought was something impressive. And I think a lot of people know Kelsey Grammer played Frasier for 20 consecutive years, which is an impressive feat. At number 7, 1985, I had The Golden Girls. That's my wife's a big fan of The Golden Girls. I actually have a puzzle. Hold on a second.
I would say that's it sounds like a Mary-approved.
But in arm's reach, I have a Golden Girls puzzle. And that was a show that had 6 consecutive seasons in the top 10. Getting up to number 6, I had Cheers, 1982, 11 seasons, 275 episodes. I think everybody remembers the big finale of Cheers, and that was a big event for everybody. I have getting into the top 5. I got number 5 in 1986, and I think this will be my Sabu of the list that I think you guys won't have. Is Alf. I had Alf on here, and my backing is that for the time it was a very innovative show. It took forever to film because they had to build the stage up 4 feet, so they had a puppeteer running around underneath, which something that was never done before. Well, I guess it was done for the Muppet Show. But I think this was, well, it sounds like the same damn thing, doesn't it?
Would you like to swap that up for the Muppet Show? We'll give you that chance.
I thought it was innovative, but I guess the Muppet Show kind of got there first. Well, anyway, I'm keeping Alf there. And I dug up that it won a People's Choice Award, and it won Favorite Show and Favorite Actor at the Kids' Choice Awards.
Ah.
And they tried to reboot it in 2018. They were talking about it in August. And by November of 2018, they said, no, we're not going to. And one last thing about Alf, Max Wright, who played the dad on Alf, was actually jealous of the character because he got all the one-liners and he was just playing second fiddle to this puppet. And at one point, the set was real hot too, apparently, and it took forever. And Max Wright lost his mind one day and started strangling the puppet.
I have can I cut in because I have an Alf fact. I can't believe we're spending this much time to talk about Alf. This past weekend, as everyone knows, or a lot of people know, that the U.S. returned to space with the Dragon X SpaceX flight, and they were talking to some of the engineers and designers, and one of the mock-ups for another mission is going to be to go to Mars, and in all the mock-ups, one of the engineers and conceptual artists in the rocks of Mars put Alf everywhere to say that there's already alien life forms out there. So
put the letters Alf, or actually?
No, actually put like in the rocks, like, and they did a zoom. You can't tell if you're not looking for it, but little like faces of Alf in the red rocks of Mars. So
here, I thought you were going to tell us that Elon Musk had decided his next trip was going to be to Melmac.
Actually, Elon Musk and his wife Grimes, their next child is going to be named Alf. So if you thought tuning into this show you'd hear 5 minutes on Alf, congratulations. What's your final 4, Chucky?
All right, number 4, I had MASH, 1972, which was a blending comedy and drama for sure, but was a huge show and a lasting show. And then number 3, I go the whole way back to 1955, where I got the Honeymooners, which I didn't know only lasted 1 season. It was like 29 or 39 episodes in just 1951. Before that, it was a sketch on the Jackie Gleason show.
Yeah,
but
I think they did come back and produce 30 more after the fact because and they were newer ones too because they replaced Audrey Meadows with Sheila McRae. This is when they changed over to color.
And that was something even before we started talking about doing this. We had just started watching. They have them on Amazon, and it holds up. It's a funny show. So a sitcom back in 1955, still holding up in 2020, I think, deserves to be high on the list. And then at number 2, I've got It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which just broke the record for most seasons in the history of television by signing a contract to do the 15th season coming up. Wow. So now it's the longest running live action comedy of all time and one of the funniest shows on television. And then at number 1, I think it's no surprise, I've got Seinfeld coming in with their 9 seasons. And in 2013, the Writers Guild of America voted the best written series, not just comedy, but any series ever written. The only one it lost to was Sopranos. And it even spawned its own language with sign language, with people using yada, yada, yada. What's wrong with that? And now you're doing something to help me. So I think it deserves number 1.
All right, so that's Woodchuck's list while he goes to enjoy a lunch of rum ham and play some Risk with his neighbors.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong.
Well, we'll yada, yada, yada over to J.R. Wheeler, and I have a feeling that a lot of these will be from the 60s and 70s.
Well,
But
I'm going to tell you as well. I was listening to Woodchuck's list. I was going to say this may be the easiest show Gary's ever had to whittle down to an ultimate list, because a lot of the same ones that Woodchuck mentioned I have on my list as well. I did not put mine in order this time. Because I said, why the hell do that? Because we're going to whittle it down to an ultimate list anyway. So in no particular order, but just starting with my memory, going back to the past, I picked up the Dick Van Dyke Show. I just thought that was a very hilarious show, and was a show that really introduced my second pick to the world. My second pick was the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So, of course, Mary Tyler Moore played Rob's wife. Oh, Rob! So both of those classic sitcom formats. Now, my third one is going to be sort of like Woodchuck's Alf. I think, if just looking at the list quickly, this is the shortest running show on my list because it only had 3 seasons, but because of syndication, it is the longest running show on here, and that is Gilligan's Island. And the reason why I have that on there is because it just cracked me up. And I know that's stupid, but just the stupid things, the professor could make a ham radio out of coconuts, but they couldn't get off that damn island. They couldn't fix a hole in a boat to leave. Always made me laugh. My fourth selection is probably one of my favorite shows because it really was a radical show, especially for its time in the 70s, and really launched a lot of the future sitcoms, how serious it can be with a message as well as funny, and that's All in the Family. And, to this day, I can still hear Edith, singing the song with Carol O'Connor on the set. After that, Married with Children. Now, a lot of people may not appreciate Married with Children, but on the Fox show, Married with Children used to make me laugh a lot. Just the way they did it, it was hilarious, and I just thought Al and Peg Bundy and the kids, it just was a wonderful show. Okay, now we start getting into the same territory that Woodchuck was in, so I won't talk too much about them. I'll just throw them out there. Cheers. Enough said. MASH. Who can argue with MASH? For a long time, I think it's still in the top 10, but for the longest time, its final episode, Goodbye, Farewell, Amen, held the record for the for ratings, and that beat a lot of Super Bowls, even, which a lot of shows can never claim that. Seinfeld, Friends, and my final one, spawned from Cheers, Frasier. So, like I said, the last half of my list is agreement with Woodchuck.
Chuck, on JR's list, is there anything that stands out that just is an eye-opener for you?
Yeah, Married with Children. That one slipped through the cracks for me. I think that should be up there for sure.
Well, I feel bad, too, because I'd already heard off camera Gary's list, and he has one on his list that slipped through my cracks. So
it may be the number one show on the list, too. That's all I'm saying. Well, JR, you're going to take a break, and I'm going to give my list because I learned a long time ago in watching the movie 8 Mile and also watching the movie Drumline, if there's any battle, like poets or anything like that, you want to go second. Usually this person that goes last or second is going to win the war. So I'm going to go last. And I know it's going to be hard to believe, but a lot of my list is different from you two. So I'm bring it on. I'm going to start strong with probably what's going to be my Sabu nominee. And I know it's a popular show, but it holds a special place in my heart because there was a time when you would come home from school and there was no news on. It was all sitcoms from like 4 o'clock to 6. And one of the ones that was on, Benson with Robert Guillaume, who later went on to play the Phantom of the Opera. So I think that needs to be on there because it was a darn funny show for its time, and it still holds up today.
And by the way, Gary, that Benson was not going to make my list, but the show that spawned Benson almost made my list, which was Soap.
Oh, I didn't even know that. See, we're learning. I didn't know Soap. That also was Billy Crystal, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That is correct. He was their butler.
Chucky, did you spend, we're the same age, did you spend a lot of after-school days watching Benson?
Benson I didn't know too much about. I was aware of Benson, but me and Benson didn't spend too much time together. But you mentioned what's his face played Phantom of the Opera. but I'm familiar with the Phantom of the Opera for Michael Crawford, who was Condor Man. I thought he was the guy that made Phantom of the Opera famous.
Yeah, he was the main guy that brought the role to the masses. But Robert Guillaume later, I can't remember if he did it in New York or if he did it in Toronto or a touring production. But he played the Phantom for quite a number of years. So not only did he end up being governor of Ohio, he ended up being the Phantom of the Opera, which I think is a strong consideration for Sabu. But that's for a time down the road.
And of course, then he ended his career doing Sports Night.
Now, look at this. If you guys thought tuning in, you'd hear 5 minutes on Benson and Alf. Congratulations. My number 9 show, which I know both of you enjoy, but kind of as a fringe for the all-time greatest sitcoms, but some of the characters just made me laugh, and they still hold up. WKRP in Cincinnati. Les Nessman, Herb Tarlick, the big guy. Just such a great picture into what late 70s, early 80s radio was. And also, like I said, I love the character of Les Nessman.
And every Thanksgiving, that still pops in my head. It's God is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly.
Yeah.
Every Thanksgiving still pops into my head.
That might have to be another list. The top 10 catchphrases or memorable lines from shows, but that's for a different day. Number 8, MASH. It was tough for me to put it at 8, but I made a couple changes to my list, and that's just where it fell on my list. Number 7, this is my brother Daryl, and this is my other brother Daryl. Newhart, one of my favorite shows, and I also love the finale where he wakes up with his wife from the Bob Newhart show.
Right.
So that was, and I always loved that show. So I thought that deserved a spot on the list. On my list, that's forever, or in any case. Number 6, a show that I'm not as familiar with, but I know in television history, it's a good one. I know it's on JR's list. Mary Tyler Moore Show, groundbreaking show. Also followed up by a British import to the United States in the 70s, All in the Family. That was another one that I think stands up through the ages, and it's just amazing acting and with Edith and Archie. It's hard to not put that on any list of the top 10 sitcoms of all time. And now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the dish, the top 4. My 4th one is Seinfeld, yada, 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 no soup for you. And I feel that if I didn't put this on there, my mother would ground me because her and Woodchuck are the 2 biggest Seinfeld fans I know. That might have to be another show, the trivia contest, to end all trivia contests between the 2 of them. But just a groundbreaking show. The character Newman went on to work with Jurassic Park, and I think he tragically died in an accident in the Great Hurricane at Jurassic Park. Yeah, not in real life. Yeah, the character. Yeah.
Thought he was still alive. Thought Wayne Knight was still kicking.
Chuck was about ready to just have his world rock there. Number 3, a show that is not on either of your lists, and I was kind of surprised that it wasn't, just because of how groundbreaking it was. No, I shouldn't say groundbreaking, but just the writing in its first 3 seasons was probably the tightest writing. And it kind of reinvented the sitcom, what it can be to be a sitcom. Arrested Development. It was on Fox for the first 3 seasons. Struggled with ratings, got canceled. Then Netflix has brought it back for a couple further seasons in recent times. But if you can't watch Arrested Development and laugh at the character of Joe Bluth, there is something wrong with you. Also, an underrated character that is the actor that played Super Dave Osborne plays a surrogate for one of the characters, and it's some of the funniest acting in the history of the world. I should have probably put Super Dave on here because I'm a big Super Dave fan. Number 2, Cheers. Again, one of my all-time favorite characters on that show with Mr. Postman, Mr. Cliff Cleveland, who are 2 people that have never been in my kitchen or whatever that line is. And the number 1 show, which I'm also surprised was not on either of your 2 lists, and I'm about ready to cut the feed because it's going to be – I'm going to fight for it for number 1 all time. I'm just going to put that out there now. It's going to be a battle. The Office is the number 1 sitcom of all time.
Yeah.
British import that kind of reworked what the British show was. The British Office was only on for, I think, 2 seasons. The American Office was on for 9 seasons, 8 if you don't count season 8 because that was very bad, in my opinion. But not only has that show stood the test of time, it's the number 1 viewed show on Netflix right now with something like 4 or 5 billion streams in the last year. And the show itself, the concept itself, is spread to different countries around the world. So there's, I believe, an Indian office, a Turkish office, a French office, all based on that. So I think that deserves consideration. But that concludes the first segment of the show. When we come back, we're going to get the list down to 10. Maybe have some more conversation about Alf. We'll be right back on the Ultimate List.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
And welcome back to the Ultimate List, friends. We have a very good show in the middle of a very good show of the top 10 sitcoms of all time. And the panel of experts, the first host of the Ultimate List, Woodchuck Kuntz from Brooklyn, New York, and J.R. Wheeler, the producer emeritus of CTV. We have got, we all set our lists in the first half, in the first segment of the show. And I'm going to read, we have 7 shows that were shared either by all 3 of us or 2 of us. So the 7 shows that for sure will advance to the final stage of the Ultimate List are, no particular order, Cheers, MASH, Seinfeld, Frasier, Friends, All in the Family, and Mary Tyler Moore. So that's a strong number 7. Now here's where friendships and loyalties and patience are going to be tested. What are going to be the 3 final ones? So let's go to, we started with Woodchuck last time. Let's start with JR. JR, off of your list, what is one show you would like to fight for? You only have 3 that weren't named on the other list, but out of Dick Van Dyke, Gilligan's Island, or Married with Children.
Married with Children would be the one I would fight for because Dick Van Dyke is so old and established. Same with Gilligan's Island, both in syndication and everything like that. To me, I think Woodchuck said this about one of his shows as well. To me, Married with Children really still holds up. It really does. So I would think Married with Children, and it was on, God, I can't remember. It was on like 10 or 12 seasons, too. It was on a long time. It's still, I think, the longest running, if you're not counting The Simpsons, longest running actual show on
Chuck,
Fox.
would you like to chime in on your thoughts on Married with Children?
No, yeah, like I said, I missed that one. I think that would have made my list. So yeah, I'm good with getting that one in here.
And I do as well because, again, whenever Jared's reading lists, that was another one that I shook my head like, yep, can't believe I missed that one with Al Bundy scoring 4 touchdowns for Polk High. And that was a show that kind of kept Fox afloat in the early days as well, that and The Simpsons and Tracy Ullman in Living Color. So that was
we could have broken out our ma'am T-shirts, too.
That'll be another show. So, all right, so JR has fought for one of his. So now we're going to go to Brooklyn, New York, the mean streets of Brooklyn. Probably Woodchuck's planning his trip to a bodega later, maybe taking the subway ride. I don't know what's going on in Brooklyn. But off of your list, you have a choice of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that have not been on 2 other lists. Always Sunny, Honeymooners, Alf, Golden Girls, and Mama's Family. Which is the one that you're going to fight for?
So Honeymooners wasn't on either of your lists.
No, and that's surprising.
I think probably because of what you said, Woodchuck, it was on so few episodes. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but a lot of people just aren't. They're more familiar with the show that was that spawned it later on, which is the Flintstones.
Gotcha. Well, geez, that's tough to pick. I think the right thing to do is pick Honeymooners. My favorite show that I would pick would be It's Always Sunny. And my wife loves Mama's Family and Golden Girls, so I'm going to hear about it if I don't fight for that. But going with the history of the show and fighting for the underdog, I'd like to get Alf back in
That's actually fair. Then, your wife's not getting upset because you went against her, and for someone yours, you threw yours aside, so you went with Alf.
Yep.
His favorite.
We were talking during the commercial break that the Muppet Show controversy, we're going to chalk up the Muppet Show to a variety show. So Alf will be the groundbreaker in the sitcom world. What was the 50s show you were talking about, JR?
Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. That was a classic puppet show, Kukla, Fran, and Ollie.
What kind of puppets we talking, though?
Ollie was kind of like a dragon sea serpent type, kind of like Cecil the sea serpent.
Was
And
it like a hand puppet, or was it more?
Oh no, there was classic. Fran was in the middle, and 2 hand puppets, one on either side of her. Yep.
I almost want to put Kukla, Fran, and Ollie on it just because I remember back in the day being on a shoot with JR in the truck and something wasn't going right. He was trying to fix something. Instead of swearing, he just muttered Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. And I thought it was a profanity in a different language. So I don't know if we want to fight for Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, but
No.
man, I don't know, Chuck. Out of your list, I think I can definitely see It's Always being on there or Alf. But I can see the thought process behind putting Alf on there.
I'm gonna go Alf. The whatchamacallit, innovative sitcom that no one else had attempted, and I just think they deserve their time in the spotlight.
And it is, you're right, it's a completely different style of sitcom where your main character is, a puppet. So
It's like when Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out and people were interacting with cartoons. It's a whole new world.
Sally, what do you think? JR's little puppy came on. Who kind of looks like Alf. What do you think, Sally?
she likes Alf because Alf ate cats.
That's right.
Hey!
That's Sally's vote.
That's perfect. All right, I will agree with Alf because, like I said, Chuck, I know you're in a pickle there, and your wife knows where all of us live, and I'd hate to put any of us in danger. So Alf is the smart choice and the safe choice, which brings it to me. Now, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that weren't on lists. I'm going to eliminate Benson from consideration, even though, like I said, I love that show. Just an amazing show. WKRP, Herb Tarlick and Les Nessman, man, it really hurts me to put them off. Newhart, Larry, Daryl, and Daryl, I'm sorry. So, but I'm going to this is going to be a debate because I think the last 2 shows that I'm going to fight for, and I can only pick one. We can only get one. Both are very similar shows. They're both one-camera shot sitcoms, so shot movie style without a laugh track. Arrested Development and The Office. Both of them were on about the same time. Arrested Development was on, I think, a season or a year or 2 before The Office. They overlapped for a year. But in my heart of hearts, I have to fight for The Office. I've read a book of The Office just recently. I had my picture taken with several members of The Office last year. It's a show I can watch at any time except season 8. And even though I love Arrested Development and Job and the gang, I think what happened in the last 3 seasons that they did on Netflix kind of changed the dynamic of the show because that show was so well written and the comedic beats were so good. But it kind of, like I said, The Office had 8.5 out of 9 solid seasons. So I'm going to put out there The Office for your consideration. JR, what do you think? I know you've never seen The Office, I don't think.
No, I've seen The Office. But here's where I thought I was right with you until you picked The Office because I really thought you were going to fight for, and I was going to agree with you, Arrested Development. The Office. The problem I have with The Office is it was already an award-winning show with Ricky Gervais before they even launched the American version. Arrested Development is a completely weird. I grant you, to a lot of people, they'll think it's weird, but a completely show that you can't really say what it's about, and you can't say, wow, this is created out of somebody's head. It was created out of somebody's head, but I don't know what they based it on. I mean, to this day, I still see what's his name as a Blue Man Group, in the Blue Man Group. So it's just is a funny show. But hey, it's your pick. But like I said, of those ones you named, and I'm sorry, really, if I was going with the ones you named, and I kicked myself first time you said it, I didn't have it on my list, was WKRP.
Chucky, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, between Arrested Development and The Office, I think the Office beats Arrested Development just because I don't know how many seasons The Office was, but it's a show that the reason it's so much watched is people are watching it over and over and over again, and I think that's something that speaks to the quality of that show. And Arrested Development, The first 3 seasons were fantastic, but they really muddied the waters when I think they did 2 more, right? 4 and 5.
I think they might even have a 6th season.
But I know that first season when they finally came back, everybody wanted them to come back. They did that weird editing where you followed one character an episode, and
That
I
didn't
think
work.
you really lost what made that show funny was them interacting with each other. So I think if you're comparing those two, I think the Office crushes the rest of development.
Yeah, I'm going to have to fight for The Office because I do see Jared's point that it was a property before in England, but I just read it's an oral history of The Office. It just came out in 2020, so if you're looking for a good book to read out there, look it up. I think it's just called The Office, a sitcom. I think the actual title was something like the sitcom that defined the 2000s and whatever. Ricky Gervais is pretty much said in the book that, yeah, the first couple episodes was the show that he remembered, but after that, it spawned off its own on its own path. And an interesting thing, Steve Carell, who is an amazing actor in Hollywood, when you're an actor and you're on set, you have a call sheet and a call number, and apparently it goes by seniority or rank or whatever or money. And whenever Steve Carell left The Office, the producer said that no one ever is going to have call number 1 on the show again, which had never been done before in TV history. So the next person was Rainn Wilson. He was the highest person on the call sheet as number 2. So I think for those 2 things alone, I'm going to put The Office down.
I like Steve Carell anyway. In fact, I may have to bring Netflix back simply for the fact I want to see his new show, Space Force.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I haven't watched it yet. But definitely we will, maybe we'll do a watch along. Maybe we'll get somebody's Woodchuck's Netflix password. We'll do a watch along. Well, that's it. That's our 10. So after the break, we're going to hash it out and see what order the top 10 sitcoms of all time will be. You're watching Ultimate List on CUTV.
Colin, what's wrong, man?
I just don't know how my family back home in Millersburg, Pennsylvania can watch our stuff down here.
Well, they could follow us on Twitter, or they could like us on Facebook.
Yeah, but what about our sports? How can they watch those?
They could watch it live on our YouTube channel.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, CUTV superfan and Ultimate List superfan Jimmy Mongell here to give you my Ultimate List top 10 sitcoms of all time. I'm going to start off and let you guys know right now, no Friends, no MASH, no Modern Family. Those just aren't shows that I watch. That's another reason why I love Ultimate List, because it's open to debate. This is my list, and it just sparks the conversation to debate. So let's get right into it. Number 10, Roseanne. Number 9, Malcolm in the Middle. Number 8, Cheers. Number 7, King of the Hill. Number 6, All in the Family. Number 5, The Munsters. Number 4, Arrested Development. Number 3, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Number 2, The Office, the US version, of course. And number 1, Seinfeld. So again, this is my Ultimate List. Love to hear some feedback and like to hear what the experts have to say. So enjoy. Thank you.
And welcome back to the Ultimate List. You're watching the top 10 sitcoms of all time, and we're in segment 3. We've done the heavy lifting, so shake it out. Make sure that lactic acid gets out of the arms. But we have taken 30 names of sitcoms from 3 of our lists. We whittled it down to 10, and from that list of 10, we're going to order them. So real quick, the rundown of the list of 10 in no particular order was All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore, Alf, The Office, Married with Children, Frasier, Friends, Seinfeld, MASH, and Cheers. So, since we're getting very good at getting the nuts and bolts of the show down, we're going to give you 10 through 5, and then we're going to fight it out live on screen for the top 4 sitcoms of all time. At number 10, we concurred that the number 10 sitcom of all time is Friends. Chuck or JR, would you like to explain briefly why that is at number 10 and not higher?
Chuck.
Yeah, I was just saying that Friends, I don't believe it's a sitcom you can watch over and over again. You can see it once and it's fine and you have a good chuckle, but it's not something you revisit. And so that's why it's just creeping in there at the bottom of the list.
And number 9. And I got to hand this one off. So, Chuck, once again, if you'd like to tell the world what the number 9 sitcom of all time is.
Number 9, we fought for the underdog. We got him in there. We're putting the alien life form Alf at number 9, the innovative puppet sitcom that changed the world.
So congratulations, Alf. And if you're watching this somehow, producers of Alf or anybody associated with Alf, if you get some autographed memorabilia to Ryan Woodchuck Kuntz, that's his Facebook tag. So just send it stuff. He'll do whatever he can to get Alf out there once again. There might be a giant Alf on the Barclays Center hung at some point. So number 8, JR, you were the only person that had this on your list. So if you'd like to say what it is from Fox TV.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yes, I was the only one on my list, but I think both of you said that it kind of, slipped through your cracks, so to speak. And speaking of cracks, it's a perfect topic for Married with Children. But, Al Bundy and Peg Bundy, even the dog Buck. I mean, it's a classic character. It was on a long time, and it still holds up today. When you see it in syndication, it holds up. And I agree with Chuck. It holds up a lot better than Friends does. Friends is just so locked into the 90s, and that theme, they played that damn theme song so often I got tired of hearing it. But Married with Children, it really does hold up. Situational comedy and has some controversy to it as well. So, and I like shows that are not afraid to be controversial.
And I'm going to bounce it right back to you for number 7, because out of the 3 of us, you were the only one alive when this was on the air. Mary Tyler Moore Show. Tell us what
was you alive? Really?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Mary Tyler Moore, and this is an interesting story. Mary Tyler Moore going to the newsroom. It had a funny newsroom with Lou Grant as the overall producer, and Ted Knight, newsman, Gavin McLeod before he went on the Love Boat. One of their best episodes of all time, and this will show you their humor as well, was called Chuckles the Clown. And what was funny about it is Chuckles the Clown was killed during a parade. He was shelled to death he was dressed as a peanut, and he was shelled to death by an elephant. And what it is they're having this, everybody's laughing and making jokes all through the show. And Mary's like, that's sad, that's awful, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. They get to the funeral where everybody's very somber, and she busts out laughing and can't control her laughter at the funeral. And that's the type of humor you had in all the different shows during Mary Tyler Moore.
I might have to check that out. That sounds like right up my alley.
Chuckles the Clown. That's all you got to do. Type in Chuckles the Clown.
Well, after we look at Chuckles the Clown, we're going to look at number 6 on the list, and I'll take that because I fought hard for it. The Office, groundbreaking show, worldwide appeal. Not much more to say about that. Another one of my all-time favorite characters, Dwight Schrute and his cousin Mose Schrute. Mose is only in a few episodes, but he's tremendous.
Go ahead.
I think one of the biggest points you had about The Office was just how many versions of it there are all over the world. That's a huge selling point for getting it on the list.
Yeah,
but I'm hoping throughout the world none of them have the character. What was it, Robert California? I hope none of them have that character.
No, hopefully not. And it's actually interesting how that character came to be, but you got to read the book. So read the book. And number 5, the final one that we all agreed on at this spot. Me and JR had it on our list. Ryan did not, but I think he agreed pretty much that it was a show that's worthy of number 5. Is All in the Family. Archie Bunker, Edith. I mean, that show tackled issues that are still relevant today, 40 years ahead of its time. And another show that was based on an English sitcom. So that's your 10 through 5. Now, guys, we have a fight going on. We have to put in order 1 through 4. And on the list, Frasier, Seinfeld, MASH, and Cheers. 4 heavy hitters going in the steel cage. What do we got? Chuck, we'll start the discussion with you.
Well, I think at the bottom of the list is Frasier. As good as that was, I don't think it's in the same class as the other 3 on that list. So I would put Frasier at 4, and then what do you have? You had Cheers, MASH, and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go in that order. Seinfeld would be 1, MASH would be 2, Cheers 3, Frasier 4.
JR, how do you feel about Frasier number 4? Because I feel
I was actually going to make the case, honestly, that in one of the few times it ever happens, that Frasier outdid outdid Cheers.
Oh.
I really do. I think overall, watching the shows in syndication, Frasier holds up much better, has a lot of funnier episodes. You know, it just after a while, and to me, Cheers, you really have to divide up into the Sam and Diane era, because once it hit, even though I love Kirstie Alley, I think it got weaker with her. I think the Sam and Diane was the main thrust of that show originally. So
you think it's a Godfather 2 situation where the sequel is better than the original?
Well, yeah. I mean, except I'm older than you, so the example I would pick is The Bride of Frankenstein is better than the original Frankenstein. Yeah, because sequels don't usually outdo. But to me, I just think that. But that would be the one I would flip flop. That would it, because I think you said Seinfeld on top. Number 2 would be MASH, and then is that what you said?
Yeah. Then 3 Cheers.
3 and 4, you just whatever. You know, I'm not going to fight that much for either one because I like them both. So.
Yeah, I was whenever you said flip-flopping them, I was going to be really upset about it, but I can get behind the logic because I think what sold me in putting Cheers at number 4 is what you said, the whole before Sam or before Diane and after Diane, and also you had Coach tragically passing away during that run and replaced with Woody Harrelson, who was amazing, but I kind of agree that the timbre of the show changed a little bit throughout, and Frasier was pretty much, I don't even know if that's the correct uses of that word, but I think Frasier was pretty much rock solid from day 1 to day 11 or year 11.
Yeah, for me the rewatchability is the big thing on making this list, and yeah, now that you say it, I guess I have watched Frasier a lot more over and over again than I have Cheers in the years, so I'm fine with that flip flop. You want to do the flop?
Flop it up.
Allie made me vote for Frasier because she's a big fan of Eddie the dog.
And I think, whenever you were saying putting MASH at number 2 and Seinfeld number 1, I'm okay with that. JR?
Well, yeah, it doesn't, because it's like you got a porterhouse steak and a T-bone. How do you fight? They're both great cuts of meat. They're both wonderful. The only thing that to me, the only reason why, if it were my list alone, that I would pick is because of the
pretty good.
The final episode of I thought Seinfeld's final episode was rather weak for such a great sitcom, while I think the final episode of MASH went on to be, it's still in the rankings, is in the top 10. Because final episodes are tough to do. They really are. And I thought MASH really captured it. But like I said, I'm not going to fight for it because I like them both again. So either one of them, I think today Seinfeld would capture, because MASH started off in the 70s. So I think Seinfeld is probably a little bit more relevant today, and that's why more people would go with that one.
And I'm perfectly okay with Seinfeld at number 1, MASH number 2, but we have to have some debate. We're too harmonious right now, so we're going to go around the room.
Uh-oh.
And we're going to talk Seinfeld. Talk either your favorite episode or your favorite Seinfeld moment. And we'll start with Superfan. Actually, we'll start with JR because I know Woodchuck is the Superfan, so we'll give him the final say. So, JR, what is your favorite Seinfeld moment?
Favorite episode of all time, it's an easy one for you to pick, is The Contest, because I thought that was a wonderful episode that really captured the snarkiness of all the neighbors, and and to me, I can still to this day close my eyes and see Kramer coming through the door and slam the money down the table and say, "I'm out," and just walk out. So, to me, The Contest really exemplifies the great writing, the great ensemble acting of that, core group that made up Seinfeld.
And my favorite, I'm not gonna say an episode because it's so tough picking a favorite episode, but one of my favorite moments, and it's not one that I don't think would come to people's attention right away, but just for whatever reason, it always cracks me up, is the Junior Mint flying through the air in the operating room. Is just, that whole setup is just amazing to me. So I would think the Junior Mint is probably my favorite moment of Seinfeld. And also the risk game is also one of my favorites. So we'll finish up with Superfan of Seinfeld.
Well, yeah, I agree that it's hard to pick one. I can't pick an episode, but I know Seinfeld's looked at in 3 different parts. The first 3 seasons is the conversational Seinfeld, where not a lot of craziness happens, but it's more just buddies talking. And the last 3, 7, 8, and 9 are like when they really went off the rails and things are absurd and crazy. And then those middle 4, 5, and 6 is the sweet spot for a lot of Seinfeld fans, where it's a meshing of those 2 conversational moments and the kind of absurd. But I love the end of it, the 7, 8, and 9. I love when the things went off the rail. I love George Costanza in those last couple seasons because he's so angry. Everyone loves Kramer throughout it, but Costanza takes it over for me at the end because he's so angry at everyone and does that thing where he screams up at the camera. And one of my favorite moments is when George is trying to get he works for Play Now, and they find out he's not handicapped, so he's trying to stay there as long as he can so he can get the full contract instead of leaving. And they do that.
All his employment, because my favorite one was when he worked for George Steinbrenner, and like he even had that little bed built under his under his
yeah, those absurd stuff. But that montage when he's at Play Now, when everyone does think he's handicapped and they're playing that song, it's playing "My Baby Takes the Morning Train," and he's riding the elevator, the handicapped elevator up the steps. That's one of my favorite moments.
And as a tribute to Seinfeld being number 1, the Ultimate List will make a donation to the Human Fund in your name. So,
oh, beautiful. And
the last thing we have to give out is the Sabu Award, and the Sabu Award is named the Sabu Award because the very first episode, Sabu, as great as he is, somehow made it to the list, the top 10 list of all-time greatest professional wrestlers. So we always bestow one that may not have deserved to be on the top 10, but due to a good as JR is just bringing Alpha on the screen off and on. I'm glad he doesn't know how to share the screen right now, so that's saving us. But, Chuck, if you'd like to award the prestigious Sabu Award for this show.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that Alf gets the prestigious Sabu Award today. He may not be on the traditional top 10 list, but I think if you look, take a deep dive into the Alf universe, you'll see he gets a lot more. He deserves a lot more credit than he's been getting out there on those streets.
And guys, that's our show today. If you want to be part of the conversation, make sure to follow us on Twitter at CUTV_PA and give us your top 10 list. Just list them on there. And whenever we do another show in a few weeks, we'll put the topic out there and maybe you guys can send in some video and we'll include you in the ultimate list. So like I said, at CUTV_PA at Facebook, or follow us, or if that's on Twitter, and then follow us on Facebook, California University Television. So for J.R. Wheeler and Sally and Ryan Woodchuck Kuntz and Mary and me by myself in the studio, we'll see you next time on The Ultimate List.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye.